Hello and welcome back to the Helpware Nerds Podcast. Today we're going to do something very special and we're going to dive into actual fantastic beasts and where you might actually be able to find them. Take it away, Nerd of the Round Table.
Hop Nerd of the Round Table, thank you very much. Yep, hi, I'm Ashley. If you are fans of the podcast, you will know my voice quite well. You can find me in multiple episodes, but I'm coming at this in the same way that I looked at our Agatha All Along episode, and I looked at the history, I guess, behind the nerddom. So I'm as you'll know, Ethan, I am absolutely fascinated about how we have taken ideas that have been around for centuries and how they forever evolve to create something kind of new, especially in the world of like fantasy and D&D, and how that draws on many different types of mythology throughout the years.
Yeah.
So we were talking, weren't we, about the Fantastic Beast movies
We were.
at one point.
No, go on.
Do you want to go?
No, you go on, go on. It's all right.
And yeah, we were kind of like, where did all the inspiration for these come from? Many creatures mentioned throughout Harry Potter and the Fantastic Beast movies themselves, and we wanted to know what was the background to them.
And
Now,
sadly, even though it was called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we didn't actually get Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
No, we can do separate episodes on this, but our feelings is that the Fantastic Beasts movies became Dumbledore saga.
Yeah,
over kind of an actual magical zoo experience. It's more Grindelwald's story with some exotic animals.
Yeah, it kind of drifted away from the fantastic tellings of a bestiary that Hagrid would have absolutely died to get his hands on, to the backdrop of why is Dumbledore so important?
Yeah, and I think we were both saying, personally, you can have your own opinions on the movie, but we'd have loved that a franchise called Fantastic Beasts actually focused on the animals themselves. More so. I know that there's a Fantastic Beasts and there's new ones being added each time in each movie throughout the movies, including the origins of Nagini. Which one? Not going to here, but
take it or leave it.
Take or leave it. But we were like, well, we want more focus on the animals. However, the original Harry Potter series does have some real life, depending on how much you believe in myths and legends, actually features some mythological, real life fantastic beasts.
It does.
Which is what we want to talk to you about today.
Yes. We'll table the fact that we didn't get Pokemon in Harry Potter for another day.
Yes, and if people want episodes on sort of the further Harry Potter universe, I guess, and the Fantastic Beast realms and sort of Pottermore and the
Wizarding world as a whole.
Wizarding world as a whole, we could do further.
You lost the wording, didn't
but
you?
Today, pardon?
You lost the correct word for the universe, didn't you?
I did. I don't know what I was going to say. I think I was going to say the magical world, but that could relate to anything.
I know. What gave it away is when I said Wizarding World, your voice got louder. I was like, you realised what it was called.
I messed up.
So
okay. But yeah, we're actually going to talk about some of the mythological fantastic beasts that are described in the Harry Potter series. Because I think it's absolutely fascinating that a bunch of things that are mentioned actually do have real-life connections to other myths throughout the world. But the real exciting one, actually, is that for a story set in Britain, quite a lot of creatures that are mentioned throughout the Harry Potter series are based in purely British mythology. So
before we
Ethan,
kick
if I
off,
said to you, yeah,
grab your notebooks, everybody, because you're probably going to need them.
I'll do a quiz at the end. No, I won't. Maybe. So, Ethan, on that topic, have you ever heard of a hinky punk outside of the books?
Outside of the books, no, I haven't.
Have you ever heard of a will-o'-the-wisp?
That I have. As a D&D player and as someone that's watched Brave numerous times, one of my favourite Pixar movies, yeah, I know what a will-o'-the-wisp is.
Well, if you know what a will-o'-the-wisp is, you know what a hinky punk is, because they are the same thing. So, they are creatures that resemble a flickering light or lantern that are said to mislead or guide travellers away from the road. And they have that's their kind of mythological origin, and there's loads of tales of them kind of leading people and travellers astray from their paths, whether for misdeeds or just mischief is up to the teller, I guess, and the tale.
So that
But the idea is
explains
that
what the way that they're used in Brave as to lead her to
yeah,
the witch's hut then.
exactly. They're a kind of creature that just kind of leads you off one path to another, and it's not necessarily that it's towards any danger or leading you from the path you thought you needed to take was necessarily a problem. It's just that they're misleading you. In Harry Potter mythology, they've got a little bit more substance to them. They're small, one-legged, and a smoke-like creature, and the light that they give is actually a lantern that they carry. So they're not the light themselves, but they carry a lantern. But the same idea, they're often used to kind of lure travellers off of their paths. As with most myths in Harry Potter, as you'll come to learn, JK goes more along the negative side. So in Harry Potter, they often lure travellers into dangerous bogs or wetlands. So they're known for their mischievousness and their ability to cause trouble. For both wizards and muggles alike, I will say, in the Harry Potter world, they're not picky about who they cause trouble for.
Okay,
But I
that's
think
just
these
making
creatures
me
are
want.
fascinating.
That's just making me want a scene where Voldemort was trying to hide one of his Horcruxes, and a hinky punk led him into a bog.
It would be interesting. It's interesting that you're like, oh yeah, and this idea of Voldemort in particular, like this idea that someone who has misdeeds themselves would be tricked by a hickey punk, because these legends all kind of connect with each other, and this actually has also connections to the idea of the jack-o'-lantern. See, I am the Halloween queen. I'm coming back to Halloween even on a non-Halloween episode. So, do you know the original story of the jack-o'-lantern?
I don't.
Okay. Oh, I love telling this story. Okay, there's many different interpretations. I will say that the jack-o'-lantern and the idea of putting a light on your step out at Halloween or All Hallows or All Souls Eve is mainly a European thing. So each country will have their own kind of version of this story. But as we have Irish ancestry, to go with the Irish version of the story because that's the one I know. So there's a lad called Jack, and the devil comes to collect his soul because he's been a naughty boy and he's a drinker,
Why
and
is there
his time
always
is
a
up.
lad called Jack in these stories?
Well, it's called a jack-o'-lantern.
I
Of course, he
know,
was going to
but
be called Jack.
I know he's going to be called Jack in this particular story. I'm just on about in these types of Irish folk tales. There's always a lad called Jack or Jim.
Yeah, I'd probably be more like Sean or
Yeah.
Seamus, the Gaelic version of the names. But yeah, Jack is the devil's come to collect Jack's soul, and Jack says to the devil, "Oh, would you do me a kindness and let me have one last drink before I come with you?" And the devil's like, "Oh, fine." And Jack's like, "Oh, I've got no money. I know. You turn yourself into a coin, and I'll use that coin to buy us some drinks and we'll have a final drink and then I'll come with you, no problem. And the devil agrees. So that Jack can pay for his one last drink, he turns himself into a coin. And Jack, as soon as the devil does this, places that coin in his pocket next to a crucifix. And so the devil cannot return to his original form. Now, in exchange for his freedom, the devil grants Jack 10 more years of life. Then 10 more years roll round, and the devil's not learnt his lesson. And Jack's like, oh, I'll come with you. I just need you to do me a favour. Can you just get something out of a tree there? And so the devil climbs up into this tree. And what does Jack do? He draws a cross on the tree so the devil can't come down. And he gets the devil to agree to give him more time. Well, anyway, once Jack's time is up, finally, and he can no longer con more time out of the devil, Jack dies. Instead of being collected by the devil, he tries to get into heaven. Well, obviously, he's not going to. He's tricked the devil twice. He's led a devious life. Heaven and St. Peter reject him outright and say, nope, not wanted here. So he gets sent to hell. But when he gets sent to hell, the devil remembers Jack and all his mischief and refuses to let him into hell either, but gives Jack a coal from the embers of the hell fire as kind of like a taunt to be like, there you go. This can be your light, your only source of light, but you are now doomed to basically roam the earth. And Jack, to preserve the one coal, hollows out a turnip. It's a turnip in most legends, and puts the coal inside the turnip to use it as a lantern. And he's doomed to roam Ireland or the earth in general with just this lantern. And he becomes Jack of the Lantern, which is why we put carved squashes, so like turnips or pumpkins, out on our doorstep with a light on Halloween to hopefully deter any mischievous spirits. But obviously, now you've got this idea of a trickster that is roaming the earth with just a light. This idea of, can lure people off their path into misdeeds, into mischief, with just a light or a lantern. So there's these kind of different interpretations of different types of creatures with all like this flickering light of a lantern that lead people astray. And that's kind of that big in Harry Potter world, that's all this magical creature called a hickey punk.
That's actually really fascinating that we put jack-o'-lanterns out on Halloween to keep Jack away.
All forms of evil spirits, I believe it's supposed to be. But yeah, naughty boy Jack. When you're carving your pumpkin in October, remember this story and be like, no Jacks in this house today. But yeah, so that's the hickey punk, which obviously our golden trio learn about in their third year Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Yeah.
They actually, as well, just to mention it, in the same sort of breath of at the same time that they're learning about hickey punks and creatures like hickey punks, they're also learning about a creature called a red cap. And these are malevolent goblin-like creatures that are primarily associated with like the border region between England and Scotland. So lots of wars, lots of violence in that sort of region. And they're known for violent tendencies. And they're called red caps because they soak their caps in the blood of their victims. They're often depicted as inhabiting kind of ruined castles and kind of jumping down from the top of like battlements to attack people. I just want to briefly mention red caps. I'm not going to really talk about them in detail, mainly because I just want to signpost people to a fantastic podcast called Rhianna Pratchett's Magical Creatures. So yeah, Pratchett, that name Pratchett, Terry Pratchett's daughter. She's done a series on sort of like the mythological origins of a lot of British myths and legends, and red caps have their own episode. So if this sort of thing interests you, go check that series out. She also talks about the origins of like the idea of the black dog as an omen. we're not going to talk about the grim or Sirius in this episode because he's not a fantastic beast. He's a animagus.
He's a fantastic
but if you want to know the
man.
kind of like why Trelawney's like, you have the grim, and it's seen like such a bad omen to see a black dog, that series also kind of gives you a bit of a lowdown on that. So go check that out.
Basically, if you want an actual expert, go ask a Pratchett.
Yeah. We're not experts in the realm of fantasy and mythology, I'm afraid. Although I'd have loved to have done a couple of modules at university in order to get that. That would have been brilliant.
We're just amateurs that love mythology.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think other ones that I mentioned throughout the series. Oh, we should probably do a quick what we're not going to do, actually.
We'll do some honorable mentions of creatures that JK made up. Now, some of these are well known and some of these aren't. From what I've found out, some of them I didn't know were made up, but some of she's gone on interviews and were like, these are representations for this, which you've probably gathered what I'm talking about there. So, obviously, the most obvious one is the Dementor being an allegory for depression. That is made up. But you found some that I didn't know were made up.
Yeah, mainly because we started this whole thing looking at the Fantastic Beasts series itself, because I was kind of hopeful that because I knew some of these creatures in the original Harry Potter series were sort of mythology based, I kind of figured, oh, well, a lot of the creatures in the Fantastic Beasts saga must be mythology based too, right? And certainly not. Like, I wanted to know, where did the idea of the niffler come from? Like this mole-like creature that steals gold and basically acts like a bit of a magpie. Or the demigeist. I found the demigeist a really kind of interesting creature. But no, they are a fiction of JK's mind. Now, I have a feeling that there's probably myths and legends that have fed into their creation, but I couldn't find anything for like the Bowtruckle or the Mooncalf that was sort of mythology based directly. So if anyone is aware of anything where they're like, oh, this is really similar to a myth or a legend that we have in our part of the world or in our culture, please let us know, because I was like looking and I couldn't find anything, and I think it'd be really interesting to see like where the inspiration for some of these creatures came from. But yeah, sadly, most of the creatures in the Fantastic Beasts saga itself are made up, whereas quite a few that are in the original Harry Potter series do have mythological origins. The only one that we're not going to talk about it today that I could see 100% definitely came from some form of mythology was the Thunderbird, because obviously that's got Native American origins.
It does have Native American roots, but
yeah, but we've had to be selective about which creatures we chose today.
One of the creatures
so we've kind of stuck a little bit more closer to home. Yeah.
One of the creatures we are talking about is also a bird, so we kind of chose between it, which you'll probably gather later on what it is, and the Thunderbird. They're not similar, but a lot of people think they are. So we chose between the two.
Yeah. I guess as well, while we're just kind of doing shout outs before I move on to our next actual creature that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail, let's just have a little shout out to the little Cornish pixies. The very cute Cornish pixies that cause so much mischief in
Chamber.
Oh my god, what's his name? Lockhart's lesson. And I'm not going to talk about them in detail either, because if you type in Cornish pixies on any web browser, you will find that Cornwall, the guide to Cornwall itself, the region of Cornwall, actually has quite a lot of detail on its own page that talks about its own myths and folklore. So I'd rather let the Cornish people talk about the Cornish pixies over myself as a Yorkshire lady.
I'm going to say it's their myth.
It's their myth. As in, I wouldn't say that obviously like Hinky punks are a Yorkshire being at all. They're found throughout Britain, but Cornish pixies are very much a Cornish thing. So, but yeah, they definitely have mythological origins.
The one of the named
But
species in Harry Potter that have the place where they originate from in the title. Cornish pixies.
Exactly. But what I am going to talk about, because it is kind of native to our area of Yorkshire, is the grindelow. So it's first thought to have appeared in folklore tales across Yorkshire and Lancashire. So that's the next county over for anyone that isn't English or British in general. And basically, they are water demons. And their purpose across the north, two main reasons, actually, is one, and their main purpose is to get children to stay away from deep water. Like, that's where the myth comes. The idea is that they would live among the reeds and river ways. And if you got too close to the edge, their long, spindly arms would stretch out in order to grab children from the edges of the river and pull them under. But their kind of second lesson for kids to learn is to brush your teeth. Because in almost every kind of story featuring the grindelow, they have really, really bad teeth. In fact, in Harry describes his first encounter with a grindelow, it says, the grindelow bared its green teeth and then buried itself in a tangle of weeds in the corner. So they're known for really, really bad teeth. And their main actual myth is around this figure of Jenny. She's called Jenny Greenteeth. And this is this creature with kind of seaweed, reedy, long, green type hair, haggard appearance, long spindly arms and crooked fingers, with a mouth full of terrible green teeth, grabbing children and trying to pull them under the reeds. And of course, Harry mainly first encounters them, like I've just said in the description, in Defense Against the Dark Arts class with Professor Lupin. But he also encounters grindelows again when he's doing the underwater lake challenge in the Triwizard tournament.
When he's in the Black Lake.
The creatures that he's attacked by in the Black Lake, are grindelows. And obviously there's mer people. Well, but the grindelows and mer people are separate. And actually, mer people are one of the only kind of, in mythology, one of the only kind of creatures that are able to kind of tame a grindelow and keep them in line. So it makes kind of sense that they would share the same habitat.
It's also made very clear in Harry Potter that the merfolk are friends with Dumbledore and keep Dumbledore apprised of everything happening underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but the grindelows, they share that space, and they're not friendly, and they never have been. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going to go with our British-based fantastical beasts. Obviously, we've only talked about a couple there, but there are others that we could go into, and of course, there's other creatures throughout Harry Potter, like vampires, werewolves, dragons, for example, that have mythical origins.
Dragons are getting their own deep dive to coincide.
They are getting their own deep dive. We are going to do dragons separately because we have a lot to say about dragons. But I was just going to say, in the context of this episode, we wanted to go into some of the creatures that are a bit lesser known.
Yeah.
Rather than ones that you probably already have an idea about. So yeah, that's our British-based creatures. Yeah. I feel like we're really Prisoner of Azkaban heavy actually in this episode, because the next creature we were going to briefly talk about is the hippogriff.
Yes.
Who also turns up in Prisoner of Azkaban in the character of Buckbeak.
Plays a very key role in that book. Very key.
So it's in the name. Hippogriff is a creature that is a combination of a half horse, half eagle. And I know what you're saying, because I've just said it's in the name, and I've then said hippo when you're thinking a hippo is not a horse. Hippo is it Greek? Let me have a
I think it is
Greek. Yes, the ancient Greek word hippo means a horse, and griffo means griffin.
That's where you get hippocampi and from as well, which are seafaring horses. I think we see them in Fantastic Beasts. I know they definitely show up in Percy Jackson, but that's a different book series.
Are they not kelpies?
Maybe, but I know that
maybe it's the same thing with different names. You find that in legends.
You do find that in legends. In fact, we'll get onto that when we get to the last creature that we talk about in this episode, which is my one, which is why I'm quite quiet for this. I have a lot of knowledge on the last one, but not most of these other ones.
Yeah, we all have our strong point, but like the creature you're going to talk about, hippogriffs are supposedly a symbol and are connected to the Greek god Apollo. So we've got a bit of a connection there. And according to legend, hippogriffs are created when a griffin, so a half-eagle creature, and a horse have a baby. And they're first actually mentioned in a poem by Italian poet Ludovico Ariosto, and it was in a 1516 epic called Orlando Furioso, which is where a hippogriff flies around the world and helps the poem's hero, I'm terrible with Italian, Ruggiero, rescue the Princess Angelica. So, hippogriffs have been around I wouldn't necessarily say that this is as far back a myth as some of the others. Been around for a very long time. And the symbol of the hippogriff is also often used in coats of arms. It's been a regular thing in sort of the subject of visual art. Obviously, Finn, you'll know a hippogriff is a creature in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
And yeah, I think they're also mentioned by Virgil as well, the famous ancient Latin poet. So they're kind of prevalent all through kind of ancient Greek and Roman texts as well, as this very kind of mythical, legendary creature.
From what I've been able to grasp from them, they show up a lot around Rome and Italy more than they do Greece, but they do show up in Greece.
So, by nature, obviously, in the Harry Potter world, hippogriffs are very proud creatures, very kind of revered and ancient. And it's even noted at one point that Newt Scamander, in the infamous textbook of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, because that's what the movies are supposed to be based on, a kind of textbook that Newt writes. Even Newt says, handling a hippogriff should only be attempted by an expert, really. As it shows in the Prisoner of Azkaban books, you maintain eye contact, you bow to a hippogriff, and you wait for them to reciprocate.
And if you show them disrespect, you get scratched.
You get scratched, and then you act like a whiny baby like Draco Malfoy. But yeah, they are kind of, even in the Harry Potter world, they are native to Europe. And Hogwarts itself has a herd that live in the Forbidden Forest itself. And they in their own world, so in the wizarding world, people can have hippogriffs as pets. So, obviously, if you've done the bow, you respect your hippogriff respects you. They can be kept as pets as well, which I found really interesting. I didn't know before I kind of looked into this. But it is wizarding law that you have to perform a disillusionment charm on them to prevent the muggles from noticing that you have a evil horse bird creature as a pet.
So there you
But
go.
yeah,
If the
so
Wizarding World is real, we might be looking at a horse or we might be looking at a hippogriff. We don't know if we are muggles.
we don't know because of the disillusionment charm. Unfortunately, we're not magical, so we wouldn't be able to tell you whether that fact is true or not. But yeah, even Buckbeak himself comes from sort of a 16th century poem. That, or at least the inspiration behind him comes from a 16th century poem.
Yes.
So that's my creatures. I think I've talked for long enough. There are so many more we could go into.
There are.
Obviously, we've mentioned a couple, like merfolk and things like that we could, and goblins and trolls that we could talk about in subsequent episodes.
Giants.
So if people found this episode interesting and want a part 2 where we go into other creatures that are shown in Harry Potter, let us know.
Yeah.
But Ethan, do you want to take us away on, I would argue, one of the most important fantastic beasts that Harry encounters in his series?
I would agree with you that this is one of the most important creatures in the Harry Potter universe. And that's why we saved him for last. Or them for last. I may have given it away by gendering them. Basically, we're going to be speaking about phoenixes from here on out. And the reason why I would argue they are the most important is they are so layered in Harry Potter. Voldemort and Harry's wand, the thing that stops them from being able to kill each other, is all because they both have a phoenix feather given to them by Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix. One of the books is named Order of the Phoenix. The entire army against Voldemort is named Order of the Phoenix. And Harry would have died in book 2 had it not been for Fawkes, said Phoenix. So, I mean, when you weigh up the mythical creatures we get to see, JK had a favourite. And it's not hard to see why. Phoenix is a symbol of immortality and rebirth. It dates back to many different cultures. One of the most argued points is where it originally comes from. It's believed to come from Egypt. But there are so many different versions of a phoenix. This is why I said when we get to this creature, there are so many different names for it. The Egyptian version isn't even called a phoenix. It's called a Bennu. And it's very closely tied to the sun god Ra, which,
Okay.
as someone who likes Egyptian mythology like you and Grandad do, you'll know how important he is in that pantheon.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's the same with Greeks. So when a Greek historian, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, so sorry, Herodotus wrote it down. Herodotus, that's it, thank you. I knew I was going to butcher it. Wrote it down. That's when we get the name Phoenix. But he also spoke about the bird in a connection with the sun god. However, he talked about Apollo. And it's said in Greek mythology that Apollo would stop the sun chariot on its travel from taking the sun across the world, as it does day and night, to listen to the phoenix sing.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Which I think is very beautiful and kind of sad we don't get to see the phoenix sing in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I would actually love that to be part of the lore for Harry Potter. But the phoenix in Harry Potter seems to have other abilities that we don't really get to see in the myths. Because the myth of the phoenix is that it is born, it lives various amounts of years depending on the culture, but the most widely known is 500 years. It then dies either by setting itself on fire or by building a nest and lighting that on fire and allowing itself to be part of the pyre, and then being reborn from the ashes. Now, what happens sometimes in the myths and sometimes doesn't, is then what it will do is take the ashes of its former self or its parent, depending on your interpretation, and encase them in myrrh, like a myrrh egg, and fly that to the temple of the sun and place the egg on the altar.
Okay, so there's always that connection between
The sun
the sun.
and the phoenix, yeah.
Yeah.
As the phoenix dies and is reborn, so shall the sun set and rise again,
Oh, that's really fascinating.
is what most of the things say. In Egyptian mythology, it was also connected to the rising of the Nile, which was very important for them to be able to grow crops.
Yeah, because obviously the Nile goes through cycles of flooding the plains of Egypt, and then there'd be points where there'd be dry spells. So a lot of Egyptian mythology is based around the kind of flooding and retreating of
so that
Nile.
cycle of the phoenix denotes the cycle of the Nile and also the cycle of the sun. In Egyptian mythology, or just the cycle of the sun and rebirth and renewal, like spring and winter in Greek mythology and subsequent mythologies. And it shows up in multiple different mythologies that I can't touch on all of them. It's even depicted in, I believe it's Jewish mythology as well, even has some connection to it. The phoenix, with the renewal and rebirth. So these are like I said, these are just what you're able to find when you Google multiple different interpretations of the
of the
phoenix.
same creature.
Yeah.
Do they always look the same across
No.
different cultures?
So this is the big thing. So one of the main things that makes you think that the phoenix, JK probably took it from the Greek interpretation of the phoenix, is because Fawkes is described and seen in the movies as beautiful, red in coloration, golden, and that style. Whereas if you go over to China and you look at their interpretation of the phoenix, they don't call it the phoenix, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the wording for the phoenix in.
But it's virtually the same myth, same sort of creature.
Same sort of creature. Oh, thank you. I found it in my notes. It's called the Feng Hengen, and I probably butchered that. I will put it in the description so you can read what it's actually called. But that is described to be more similar to birds like the peacock, with slender necks and long tails, as opposed to like the fiery oranges. It's traditionally like blue and green, and is known to be connected to like the grace of the empress.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So that's why you will have seen a bird very similar to that in the live action Mulan movie. They replaced They replaced the character of Mushu with a phoenix-like bird in Mulan live action by Disney, because it was more traditionally accurate as a symbol of China than the dragon is, which the dragon is still connected, but it's not as profound.
Okay. Interesting.
So, and the phoenix isn't just seen in Harry Potter. I mean, Fawkes is a massive thing in Harry Potter, but the phoenix is shown in multiple different medias. Like, you have it in Legacies, which is a spin-off from the Vampire Diaries. One of the main characters in that is a phoenix. And most arguably one of the biggest interpretations for nerds is Jean Grey Phoenix
Yes,
from the X-Men.
the Phoenix Saga.
Which, in Marvel Comics, the Phoenix Force isn't just like a cosmic being that happens to like Jean Grey. It's the epitome of all life in the multiverse.
Mm.
So, still tying into that cycle of life and rebirth that the Phoenix represents across multiple mythologies across the world, including like being connected to the death and rebirth of Jesus, which we've just had Easter. So, tying the Phoenix to that as well. When you look at it, it is just a symbol for, I suppose, how the world works. Everything dies in the winter, but is reborn again in the spring.
Yeah. And I suppose, is that why the Phoenix is like the counterpoint to the basilisk? Because it represents life over death.
Probably, yeah. It's also probably why the Phoenix is seen in Harry Potter to be immune to the basilisk's stare, because the basilisk stare kills, but the Phoenix cannot be killed. It is just reborn. So therefore, to kill it would just be to cause new life. In a sense, almost like tying back to the last episode you were on, the Doctor. He is more like a human equivalent of a phoenix. He dies, but is just reborn anew from the ashes of his old self.
Yeah.
It's a lot of inspiration is taken from the Phoenix. The Phoenix being able to heal is like another aspect of its connection to life in Harry Potter.
Is that not a mythology-based thing then, that the Phoenix can heal people?
I haven't found anything from what I've been able to read and from the books that I've got that says the Phoenix's tears heal anywhere except in Harry Potter. Now, let me know in the comments if you can find it, because I thought that was an ability Phoenixes had as well. But I've only been able to find it in connection to Harry Potter. I haven't been able to find it in any other texts. So, but I do like that. Also within Harry Potter, now this could be Dumbledore. This could be Dumbledore doing it just to show off. But I do like in Order of the Phoenix how Dumbledore uses Fawkes to apparate.
Okay.
Instead of apparating himself. Now, I don't know if it's Fawkes who has the ability to teleport, so I don't know if Phoenixes can teleport in Harry Potter, or if Dumbledore just uses Fawkes to make it look cooler.
Right.
In the words of Kingsley Shacklebolt, Dumbledore's got style. So, it could be that he was just showing off.
Yeah.
I think that's the intention. But it's also, can Phoenixes teleport? Again, sources on what Phoenixes can do on Harry Potter vary. I haven't actually been able to find anything on Pottermore that says exactly, or Wizarding World as it's now called, that says what Phoenix's abilities actually are. Just that basically in Harry Potter they're supposed to represent life, love, and the ultimate triumph over death. Which is the epitome of Voldemort, which is, death, hatred, and, well, we all know, bigotry, basically.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why Phoenix is so big in the Harry Potter universe, because it's supposed to be a juxtaposition to Voldemort. Everything that Voldemort stands for goes against everything that the Phoenix is.
Right, yeah.
Especially this myth of it taking its former self's ashes to the Temple of the Sun God. Its mission is bound in love. It loves itself and its life to the point where it takes care of its old self, even in its death.
That's really beautiful.
I just think it's a very good way of showing, not telling, what Harry needs to do in the end as well. And in a sense, Harry becomes a phoenix by the end of the books and films, because he, by accepting death, he dies and then is reborn.
You've argued that so far, out of the creatures we've covered, the phoenix is one of, if not the most important. I think that's probably a really great place to kind of stop.
Yes, I do too. I think comparing Harry to the phoenix is probably the best we're going to get out of this. So, with that then, I will wish you all a happy week to come, and see you in the next one. Stay nerdy, everybody.
Bye.